panelists. I cannot tell you how exciting this moment is for all of us. I mean, we are all we've been in this environmental journey together for now decades. We've all known each other, and we don't get a chance to meet. And this pandemic has definitely thrown us completely at a time when we're just not meeting. So when we thought about how to release this report, and we do this every year, and we release it every year in a formal function, and we call somebody to release it, and we do a bhashan releasing it, we decided this year to do it differently. And we just missed not having the company of our friends with us. So in some senses, this release of this report has been done keeping in mind that with the pandemic, we want to have the opportunity to know that we are all in it together, that the struggle is tough, but that we will make sure that we succeed. And that's really the purpose of today's release function. We're privileged to have so many of our friends and colleagues together with us. And we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to speak. So given that, we're going to keep a very tight program. Let me give a very quick idea to everybody who's joined what the program will be. I'm Sunita Narayan, and I work at the Center for Science and Environment. I will do a very short presentation on our report, very, very short. The presentation is available on our website. So if anybody wants to see it more carefully, can see it on the website. I want to keep it short because I want to make sure that we have enough time for everybody. And then we will release the report together. And then I will ask each one to give a very brief message. I think it's important for all of you, and we're thrilled that so many people both registered for this webinar, but I know how many are listening online. I think it's very important for everyone to hear voices from different parts of India. So that said, let me give my presentation. The annual State of India's Environment Report was really started, and I know that John Kurian is here, who was with Anil in the plane coming back from Malaysia when Anil conceptualized the SOE report. The SOE is really about what's happening on the ground, what's working, and what needs to be done to make a change. We understand the challenges. We also understand the need to explore new solutions. But the most important thing that we do, and I think it's important for us to emphasize as environmentalists, is that we have learned that we need solutions for environmental management that are affordable and so they are sustainable. We have learned in the past many decades that without inclusive, equitable growth, we will not have sustainability. But the other thing that we try and do is to understand people's action about their because without their participation, we cannot manage environment. We also need to constantly remind ourselves that environment is about development. Environment is about development. It's about building livelihoods and well-being. These are the SOE reports over the ages. Just a quick glimpse for you to see the first report in 82, then 85, and then we went on. Now, of course, and I have to really thank my colleague Richard Mahapatra, the managing editor of Down to Earth, who's had the courage to make sure that we now have an annual report. And it is very much due to him that the report is now annual, and we hope that we will keep up the tradition going forward as well. Now, very quickly, it's very clear to all of us that 2020 was the year of the pandemic. And the two big learnings that we have for this year is, one, this crisis has amplified the inequity and deep divisions in the world. That's the first big learning out of what we have seen in 2020. The other is that we are as strong as our weakest link or as strong as our strongest link, that we cannot win this battle unless we win it together. And this is so similar to the battle on climate change, which needs global leadership. If one country continues to emit, then the actions taken by the rest of the world will stand negated. But if we want all to act, then we must build a cooperative agreement, and cooperation comes when there is equity and overall, our assessment in this huge report, which I hope you will you will buy, and I hope you will buy it. And I'm making a plug for you to buy it, because every book we sell, the money goes into our corpus. So please do download it, please do buy it. But the overall assessment is that things are not working well. Air quality, water quality is under stress and is growing. That even during the lockdown, river pollution did not reduce. That we are not getting our strategy for growth without pollution right. At this rate, we will increase toxification as we expand economy, unless we change the way we do business with the environment. The other thing is that the challenge also is to use environment for development, so that in these climate risk times, we can improve livelihood, nutrition security, and build resilience of communities. Critical, this whole debate of environment versus development must stop. For us, environment is development, but the question is, how do we make sure that the benefits of that go into the hands of communities? I'm not going to go through this, but these are some snapshots of the report. It tells us that pollution is unabated. CPCB's own data of 88 industrial clusters shows us that air, water, land was more polluted between 2009 and to 2018. We also put out data in terms of industrial projects, and it's very clear that there is no system to evaluate and assess. It's a system to clear projects. And this is where the institutions of governance, of scrutiny become so critical in the years to come. We also have learned that that government is learning. What is good is that if you look at the self-survection of government is today saying that they want cities to go towards a zero landfill city. They want cities to do waste processing, not waste transport. Yet, when our report and our colleagues put together this data, you will find that we are measuring wrong. That even though we say that we want waste processing, the cities which actually do cleaning up, have visual cleaning up, are the ones which are scoring higher. So that won't work. Then, of course, there is the other big one, where on one hand, we have these crises, but today it's an age of multiple crises, and we are literally running out of time. This generation, the generation of people you see on the screen, my generation, me, we have actually lost time. And today, climate change is happening. We are seeing this in terms of increasing intensity of hurricanes, tropical cyclones, and most importantly, this is exacerbating the environmental crisis that we are ourselves creating. It is very important for us not to blame climate change for every disaster we have, whether it is the Chamoli disaster or any other such natural disaster or man-made disaster. The fact is, climate change is exacerbating the mismanagement that we ourselves are doing. But what this is doing is to make millions more vulnerable, more marginalized. And in all this, it will make the world more insecure, not just the poor world, but the rich world. We know that 2020 was the warmest year on record. We know today that extreme weather events are happening. In 5 days in March last year, 222 of India's meteorological districts receive 60% more rain than normal. I mean, clearly we are beginning to see extreme rain. But the fact of the matter is that if we get more rain in fewer number of rainy days, the challenge is now to hold the water where it falls, to do water management, which is both wise and to ensure that we can make sure that it is sustainable. But at the end and the bottom line of all this is that whatever it is, practice needs our politics. And this is, to me, where the future, if we want the future to change, it will only change if we can learn to do things differently. We are beginning to learn, but we need to practice this much more. We cannot follow the trajectory from the already rich countries. We cannot first pollute and then clean up, or use technologies that are so capital intensive that they are inequitable. We need to do much more sewage treatment, which is different, so that it provides sanitation for all, so that we reuse and recycle our waste. We need to do mobility systems that move people and not cars. We need to do solid waste so that we do not waste. We do not have land to waste. We cannot have landfills for our waste, but we need to process, recycle, and minimize. But the bottom line of all this is sustainability, and this is something every SOE finds, and we ram it. We want to emphasize this every year. Sustainability is not possible without inclusive and affordable growth. This is the bottom line. So thank you very much. I've done a very quick exposition of what we have found, and I've done this only because I wanted to make sure I gave a quick overview. I will now request all my co-panelists to hold up the State of India's Environment Report so that we can take pictures of it and we can release the report formally. So Kanya, please tell us when you want us to stop holding it up. Subhash ji, thoda upar. Pradeep ji?
I still haven't received a copy as yet, so still in transit.
Okay, never mind. Mahesh, can you hold yours up? Good. Where is Mohan gone? Okay, good. Wonderful. So Kanya, can we stop?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so can I now call upon each one of our friends to give their message? Really, we are all looking forward to this. Kia, you're right on top of the list.
Thank you, Sunita, for inviting me to this very interesting event. I was more than happy to join up. I've been following both the environment and the CSE State of Environment series for decades now. This one that I've just read is beautifully thorough. Unfortunately, I have to say that my distress at the rate of environmental degradation in India does not get alleviated with this book. Okay, it is now mingled with sadness at the inability of my generation to have managed something permanent, in spite of some successes here and there. I now ask today's youth and future generations of adults to take over. We are here to help, but you need to become the leaders and you need to find new and more ingenious, given the kind of constraints we have, I use the word ingenious, to come up with newer methods of stemming this degradation and this pollution, okay, in whatever field or discipline you may be on. And I am quite sure that all of us on this panel will be more than happy to help. Thank you very much, and all the best to CSE and to everybody on this panel,
So just
and the participants.
Thank you, Kia. Just to introduce Kia very briefly, she heads the Forum of Environmental Journalists of India and is obviously a very old friend. Probir, can I call upon you? Probir is from Pondicherry. Probir is the president of Pondi Citizens Action Network. Can you hear me?
Congratulations, Sunita and the CSE team on bringing out this wonderful SOE 21 report. However, being a Pondicherrian, I hope you will include the UTs in your next issue.
Yes.
Global issues like this climate change and pandemics are just too far beyond the common man. We can't even solve our neighborhood issues. So understanding these global dynamics is actually quite something very overwhelming and in fact paralyzing. But all these problems are only symptoms. The core problem, as we all know, is the total disconnect within our community and with the environment. So unless there is an attitudinal shift, there is very little we can do to stop this rot. And they will keep coming in waves until we learn and change our ways. But as you have rightly pointed out, Sunita, we need to build resilient local communities. And that is exactly what we are doing here in Pondi And the theme is water, because it is easy to unite people. We have come out with an initiative called OSOP, One School, One Pond, in which students, local community, and all the concerned government departments, NGOs are all involved. Each school is adopting one pond, and they will work on this conservation and biodiversity with the support of all the other partners.
Brilliant.
So this is an initiative which we have started, and it's working out well. So
Brilliant.
Thank you very much, Sunita, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabir. I have now Ramanathan Bhaskar. Bhaskar is a professor of environmental sciences and engineering at the Guru Jamneshwar University at Hisar. Bhaskar. And he's a very strong member of our Green Educators Network.
Thanks a lot for the kind introduction and giving me the opportunity to interact with all of the environmentalists. Being a teacher, I feel that learning at all levels must promote love for nature. If you love something, you will not destroy it. Then you should integrate sustainable development goals in all disciplines at all levels seamlessly. And it should lead to creation of a sustainable world. The education should lead to this. And also, what we measure as success or measures of economic progress should be redefined. And those progress which discount environment should be neglected. I think so. I have this message, and thanks a lot for inviting me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bhaskar.
Yeah.
Jayanto?
Thanks, Sunita. Thanks, Sunita ji, Down to Earth and CSE for the honor, and it's a great report. It's an absolutely fantastic report. Just would like to make a couple of points. Firstly, I would like to request Sunita ji and Down to Earth team to expand the scope of the use and penetration of this incredibly important report. I think the report, especially the data generated on key indicators, should be turned into a summary for policymakers, a SPM, in line of the IPCC report, with appropriate evidence-based suggestion to address the key issues and roadmaps to be pursued. I think apart from pushing the policymakers in center and states, the document will enhance the scope and quality of the advocacy of the environmentalists and activists throughout the country. On the report itself, I request the experts to look at the apparent data disconnect and highlight the same, which will facilitate understanding the key developmental issues in a better way. For example, I find in the current report that Madhya Pradesh has done well in economic growth, but pretty poorly in zero hunger section. Is it the actual case or quality of data is to blame? We need to know that. Finally, I request DTE team to have a specific chapter on rivers in the future publication, as despite being the actual growth engines of the country, most of them are in peril. Can you believe that national river being hijacked in any country? Exactly that is the case here, as part of the ancient Ganga called Adi Ganga has been hijacked and turned into personal property by individuals at the fringe of Kolkata. These are required to be put in mainstream development discourse. Again, thanks for nominating me to be part of this very august panel. Thanks, Sunita.
Thank you, Jayanta. Amita Bhaskar is a sociology professor of environmental studies at the Ashoka University. Amita?
Thank you so much, Sunita, for inviting me. It's such an honor to be in the company of this galaxy of activists and scholars who both inspired me over the years as well as educated me. So thank you. Since the first Citizens Report came out almost now 40 years ago, so much has changed in India's social and economic, institutional, cultural, and ecological landscapes. And how do we make sense of it all? I remember that in the early days, CSE had to dig out environmental stories from hard-to-get government documents, from obscure scientific studies and on-the-ground reporting. But today, we're flooded with information. So I think it's CSE's commitment to the two values that it laid out in the second report, to social justice and to environmental justice, that have really helped guide our way through these troubled times. So thank you, CSE, for just lighting up the path, and congratulations to everyone at CSE for just doing a brilliant job with these reports over the years. I use them all the time for teaching, and I can't tell you how invaluable they are. More power to you, and more power to all the young people who are standing up for human rights today and for the future of the planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Amita. Very important message. Thank you. Manpreet ji, can I now ask you? Manpreet Singh Bhatti, he is an environmental engineer and at the faculty of the Guru Nanak Dev University in Amritsar.
So thank you, ma'am, and congratulations to the team CSC and Dr. Sunita Narayan for this great initiative. And I must say, if you look at the compilation, it's a very good compilation on the data. And it's a 450-page report. It's a huge one. If you look at the previous one, it's more than 100 pages more. And the things which I like the most about it, you will find comprehensive environmental pollution index in the report, and how it is varied from 2009 to 2018 is there. There's a report on emission gap report. It's about CO2 emissions by UNEP, and you get the global burden of disease study. You know, it's a very huge report, but they have synthesized this in this report in just few pages. We have discussions on organic cultivations, and I'm more interested in looking at Punjab State. We have discussions on farmer suicides. There's a viewpoint about it. What's the from 2018 to 19 forest cover. And finally, it's a recommendation to all my environmentalist friends and the social activists, economists, students, researchers. This report will be really beneficial, and it will just a food for you can environmentalists. And I must share with you in the last, whatever I studied about glaciers and all these things I discussed in the class, and it's very good storyline. So many thanks to Dr. Sunita, and I'm very happy to receive this report. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Partha, can I call upon you? Partha Jyoti Das. Partha is an environmentalist, and he heads the very influential civil society group in Guwahati, Aranya. Partha.
Thank you very much, Sunita ji. I feel very much honored to have been invited to this, platform. And as I told you in my, initial letter, SOE has remained the most unique source of information from me, starting with the time I was in my university learning environmental science. From the first day when my professor Dulal Goswami, who used to be a great friend of Anil Agarwal ji, introduced this book to me, used it for my learning, prescribed it to every day, and used it for my exams. Now my message is, considering all this, that the good work you have been doing for this volume, in a world where human civilization has been gravely threatened by unprecedented environmental crisis, aggravated further by a global pandemic, disseminating scientific awareness consistently is of paramount importance for enabling people to recognize that and deal effectively with the challenge of human sustainability. The volumes of State of India's environment since its inception precisely have fulfilled this need in India. I'm so proud to be a part of this event launching the SOE 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Partha. Atul? Atul, can I now ask you? Atul is an old friend and an absolute veteran environment journalist with many books under his name. Atul, please. अतुल बोले अगर आप अनम्यूट कर लें अपने आप को. हाँ.
Yes. Thanks a lot. I'm grateful, Sunita ji, for giving me this the opportunity to be with great August gathering. Well, we know the Birbal's legend that reminds us that 27 minus 9 is equal to 0. That is, barring 9 rainy constellations or nakshatra, the remaining 18 are useless. But for our farmers in Marathwada, that is 8 districts of Maharashtra, new normal is only 2 nakshatras. Badal ko dekho, watch clouds, or cloud burst, badal futi. So we are now well accustomed with 0 water months, not days. And since a decade, farmers have been losing crops in both seasons, Kharif and Rabi. 8 districts of Marathwada are witnessing almost 3 suicides per day, offering a warning that any type of agriculture is injurious to health. This state of environment has offered many insights to understand climate change and agrarian crisis at micro and macro levels. On a lighter note, I would request Sunita to just start one state of environment journalist that is also a need. And For last 30 years, it is learning experience because of CSC, down to earth, Sunita ji, Anil ji, and Richard and team. Thanks a lot.
राकेश, बिल्कुल सही मौके पर मैं आपसे कहूंगी बोलने के लिए. Rakesh Diwan. Rakesh is also an old friend, a veteran environment journalist, a chronicler of all things. Rakesh?
जी, मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ, बिल्कुल आ रही है.
ठीक है. मैं जब भी, वैसे तो ये रिपोर्ट जैसा सब लोग कह रहे हैं बहुत सुंदर है, मैंने भी पढ़ा, उसको जितना पढ़ सका मुझे काफी कमाल की किताब लगी. लेकिन मैं हर बार इस रिपोर्ट को देखते हुए शुरुआत की बिल्कुल पहली दूसरी रिपोर्ट है उनको याद करता हूँ, और उनके साथ मैं अनुपम को याद करता हूँ, अनुपम मिश्र को, जिन्होंने अनिल भाई थे, अनिल अग्रवाल थे, अनुपम थे, और फिर उनकी पूरी टीम थी जिसने उसको हिंदी अनुवाद किया. और वो रिपोर्ट लेके मैं गांव-गांव में घूमा था. मुझे याद है कि बस्तर के इलाके में, उत्तराखंड के, मध्य प्रदेश के अलग-अलग क्षेत्रों में, छत्तीसगढ़ में गया मैं, मालवा में गया, निमाड़ में गया, अलग-अलग इलाकों में गया, उन रिपोर्ट को लेके, उन रिपोर्ट पर बातचीत की लोगों के साथ. और उस बातचीत में से ये निकल के आया कि बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी हैं जिसके बारे में उनको पहले से मालूम है. हमारे समाज को उसमें से कई चीजें मालूम है, हाँ, लेकिन उनको इकट्ठा करके देखने की क्षमता नहीं बनी है, उसको ठीक पर्सपेक्टिव में, एक ठीक संदर्भ में देख पाने की क्षमता नहीं बनी है. तो मैं अपनी बात यहीं समाप्त करता हूं कि हम हर बार, मैं सोचता हूं, हर बार जब स्टेट ऑफ इंडिया एनवायरमेंट रिपोर्ट आती है, हर बार मुझे लगता है कि क्या फिर से हम ऐसा काम कर सकते हैं, क्या हम फिर से एक ऐसी टीम जुटा सकते हैं जो मराठी में भी निकाले, जो तमिल में भी निकाले, जो मलयालम में भी निकाले, जो हिंदी में भी निकाले, संक्षिप्त निकाले, बड़ा मत निकाले, और फिर वो लोगों के पास पहुंचे, लोगों से उसको लेकर के संवाद किया जा सके. जिस निराशा में हम सब रह रहे हैं, उस निराशा से निपटने का एक तरीका संभवतः ये हो सकता है कि हम सब अपने अपने इलाके में इस तरह के बहुत अद्वितीय काम जो हुए हैं उनको लेके जाएं और समाज के साथ उसको लेके संवाद कर सके. आपने मुझे बुलाया, बहुत धन्यवाद.
नहीं, बहुत अच्छा राकेश. मुझे लगता है ये बहुत जरूरत है, मगर इतनी निराशा की भी जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि मैं समझती हूँ पिछले कुछ डिकेड्स में बहुत हद तक लोग जुड़े हैं इस सवाल को लेके, और वो बहुत बड़ी एक चीज है. श्रीपद धर्माधिकारी, श्रीपद भी बहुत पुराने दोस्त हैं, आप लोग उनका नाम तो जानते होंगे, नर्मदा आंदोलन से बहुत जुड़े हुए रहे हैं, और श्रीपद मंथन अध्ययन केंद्र में काम करते हैं. श्रीपद, प्लीज.
Namaste. So first of all, thank you so much, Sunita, and the entire CSC and Down to Earth team for organizing this event in this manner, and of course also for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this event. I want to start by recollecting the state of India's environment reports in the early 80s. When they were launched, they were landmarks in many ways. So they not only highlighted basic issues related to the environment in the country, but they also laid out in a very, very lucid and very powerful manner how environment is not just the concern of the rich, but is critical for the poor. And how environmental issues are directly linked to livelihoods of the vast majority of this country. And I will say that this message remains very important even today. Personally, I was, a young man trying to, young person just out of college, trying to see where I want to go in life. And personally, for me, like many of the people of my generation who were exploring environmental concerns in the 1980s, these reports have been very, very crucial part of my learning. So it's very important to see that that chain has continued. The chain of the State of India's environment reports, which have become almost an annual feature, have consistently and regularly highlighted and updated all of us with the key developments. And of course, this latest report is also very, very important one in that, very interesting and very important features like, I think, the state of the states, very, very, different way of putting information at a glance. My one suggestion to the entire team would be, for you to consider just for 1 year to move away from this annual update format for the report and bring out a State of India's environment report on the lines of the first two reports. That is a report which, moves away from the shorter time span of an annual update or something and presents a much more overall holistic and broader picture of the State of India's environment. I think especially for the younger people today, that kind of a holistic and comprehensive integrated picture would be invaluable as it has been for many of us, in the early 80s. Thank you once again.
Thanks, Shripad. We will definitely work on this. It's an excellent suggestion. Shantanu, can I now ask you? Shantanu Dikshit with the Prayas Energy Group. Everybody I am sure knows Prayas very well for their extraordinary work to look at energy and the whole issue of energy and equity. Shantanu.
Thank you. Thank you, Sunita. It's a great honor to be in this sort of conversation. And first of all, I would like to congratulate the entire team on bringing out another excellent volume on India's environment. Like earlier volumes, I think this year again, it really highlights how serious is our environmental crisis and how it affects each and every one of us. It's not just a crisis for project affected people or people living on some natural resources. It is an environmental crisis and livelihood crisis for each and every one of us. The report also brings out multidimensional and complex nature of this crisis. It spans across health, energy, water, air quality, biodiversity, and livelihood sectors. Obviously, addressing such multidimensional crisis would require concerted actions across all these sectors. With as many people have highlighted, it will require emphasizing innovation, focus on implementation, ensuring transparency and accountability. But I think there is one more factor that we need to really add to this long list of what is required to address this crisis, and that is a trust-based engagement between various arms of the society. That is between industry, government, civil society, and communities. I think unless we are able to build that respect-based and trust-based relationship, I don't think we'll be able to address this crisis at a scale that is required. And so I believe that unless we are able to achieve this, we will not be able to move forward. And reports, excellent reports like this would be a step in that direction. So thank you again for bringing out this excellent report. Thank you.
Thank you. Joydeep Gupta is the director of the third poll in the India Climate Dialogue. Joydeep.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Sunita, and congratulations once more to the CAC Down to Earth team for an excellent report. You see, since the 1980s, CAC has been providing us with the most comprehensive annual chronicles of what should really be called the rape of India. And it's time to talk straight and forget about platitudes. This year's edition is clearly one of the best. But the government's development trajectory shows that it continues to ignore these repeated warnings. There are many journalists in this room, like me, many of the journalists in this virtual room have spent our working lives respecting the boundary between journalism and activism for the sake of our own credibility, if not for anything else. I have done the same. I now wonder if what I have done is enough, and I leave my colleagues with that disquieting thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Joydeep. Very, 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 very important words. Narendra Gupta ji is a senior advisor with Prayas in Chittorgarh.
Okay, thank you, Sunita, for inviting me. It's a great work which has been done by you, Richard, and all other teams. So my kudos to our entire team of CSE who has brought out this publication. So instead of reading what I have sent you, I would, come on to another issue, and which I find is the most challenging part in my life. Almost I have put in about 41 years into doing community-based work. And whenever I make an attempt to sort of take this issue, environmental issues, to the community, I find it too challenging and too tough to convert it to show that how it's affecting their daily life. Because there's a conflict between their lives and the kind of environment which we are trying to build on and we aspire to build on. And that kind of a conflict somehow, is the reason for these things are not getting established and getting institutionalized. That is what I find very, very challenging. So the need is that how we begin to showcase it to the people in terms of the way it affects them on a daily basis, in terms of shortening their lifespan, in terms of putting them into bad health conditions. These kind of things have to be built in. And that also, another thing is that the way our governance and administration works in country like India, gives very little space for people at the grassroots, at the level of the community, to decide and plan anything. And in the absence of their any ability to plan and do anything, they feel very helpless and all the time looking at the level of higher ups. And this has become even more pronounced. It has become more strong during the time of pandemic, when the central government has taken all unrestricted powers in their hands and not letting people to take on anything which they want to do on their own. So unless we change the system of governance, things really are not going to make change. So I would stress that there should be some attempt to bring in these kind of issues also into our report, and I'm sure then it will become a much more useful for us to take it to the community.
No, good point.
Thank you very much, Sunita.
Very good point. Mohan Hiralal Hirabai. Mohan is the founder of Vikshmitra in Gadchiroli and is also a very old friend. Mohan ji, Mohan बोले, आप अपने आप को unmute कर लें, मोहन. मोहन अभी तो थे, मैंने अभी देखा था मोहन को. He's there, I know he's there. Is he on mute? मोहन अनम्यूट करना है अपने आप को.
हाँ कर लिया. अब आ रही है आवाज?
अब आवाज बिल्कुल आवाज आ रही है, बोले.
हाँ. तो आज मुझे अनिल अग्रवाल और उनकी टीम के साथ बिताए हरे भरे समय की बहुत याद आ रही है. उसको सलाम करते हुए मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि हमारा लक्ष्य जीवन और उसका आधार पर्यावरण बचाना है, तो हमें इस देश दुनिया के लोगों को मैं से हम बनना होगा. हम बनने की कुंजी है, एक, हमारे ग्रामीण क्षेत्र के गांवों में और शहरों में, मोहल्लों में निर्णय सर्वसहमति से ही लेने का निर्णय सर्वसहमति से लेना, तथा हमारे गांव और मोहल्लों में निर्णय लेने का हमारा अधिकार किसी प्रतिनिधि को नहीं देना. 2, जीवन के आधार जल, जंगल, जमीन, जैव विविधता और ज्ञान पर की व्यक्तिगत मालकियत को नष्ट कर उनके प्रबंधन का अधिकार गांव और मोहल्ला समुदायों ने अपने हाथ में ही रखना. इसी से समता और अहिंसा पर आधारित समाज की बुनियाद रखी जाएगी. ऐसा समाज ही जीवन और पर्यावरण बचा पाएगा. ऐसे समाज का नारा होगा, हमारे गांव और मोहल्लों में हम ही सरकार, देश और दुनिया में हमारी सरकार. धन्यवाद.
बहुत अच्छा मोहन, बहुत अच्छा. Jay Kumar, can I now ask you to speak? Jayan, as we know him. Jay Kumar, yes, please. Yes.
Thank you, Sunita ji. Fellow panelists who are amazing people. I would have really loved to be in a meeting together, but even seeing you each other online is an honor. Allow me to appreciate Center for Science and Environment for the State of India's Environment Report. This excellent annual report from CSE puts a very clear perspective on the situation today and adds, as usual, new sets of concerns every year. And this year also, new sets of concerns are added. It frames what needs to be done and to make the change which we wish to see in our lifetime. Recovery after pandemic, reimagining our future, and dreaming about restoring nature are again on focus in these pages. Wish more minds will be ignited and will add a new wave of change makers who will make an impact. We are accelerating the race to cross planetary boundaries, and I fear to hear what was predicted for the next century happening in my lifetime. we need actions that can change, and the State of Environment report adds more thoughts on pathways to that. Thank you, Sunita ji and CSE. Wish the report travels reaching all and motivating actions from them. Thank you once again.
Thank you. I had Dr. Challa after this, but I know that he's on the road, so I don't think he's been able to join. He said he would try. So we will miss him. But after that, I have, before that, I have Nityanand Jayaraman. Nitya, can you please please give your, I saw Nitya.
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, he's there. Hi, Nitya.
Hi. Thank you very much, Sunita. I really look forward to reading this edition of the State of India's Environment. I'm yet to receive my copy.
Yes.
But I think
that's because the airport was closed today.
That's right. Today is a go back Modi day. But I know it will be a useful report if CSE's earlier reports are anything to go by. I just have a message, which I did go through the forward, just your piece in the report, and I'm very happy to see that you have connected many dots. My intervention today is just about the fact that this ecological catastrophe that we are facing is inevitable as long as this world's most powerful actors, which is politics and businesses, are wedded to an economic model that is guided by a short-sighted value system. The climate crisis, as it is being sought to be solved now, is sought to be solved without rocking the boat through techno fixes and interventions that are acceptable to big business. The same companies that operate coal mines are now vying for profits from mega solar parks. And to keep the bread buttered on both sides, big business is buying national governments to gut environmental and labor laws. Bold, bright, and young thinkers and doers like Disha Ravi, Shiv Kumar, and Nodeep Kaur, who speak for a socially just and environmentally sustainable future, are brutalized and criminalized. I think India's environment can be only as good as the state of its democracy. To save our environment, we have to save our democracy. To save our environment, we have to fight to keep open the democratic spaces for our youth to think and speak freely. In the next few sessions, I hope you also have many young friends of yours, which I'm sure you have plenty of, also as part of the panel. Thank you very much for inviting me, and very happy to be all of our old friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitya. Very, very important words. Dr. Jacob John, can I ask you now? Dr. Jacob John is a virologist, and so important to hear from him today in the time of COVID, and an old friend again. Please.
Thank you, Sunita. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. This book is of critical importance for India's future. Imagine walking backwards, seeing everything that have already happened, but not knowing what lies in the future. But the environment is a continuum of past, present, and future. So we do know where we are headed to, a disastrous point of no return. Ecology's health determines our health and that of all future generations. We need a major shift in developmental philosophy, a political metanoia. Drastic changes in definitions and direction need deliberate policy initiatives. So I plead that this book must therefore be mandatory reading for all IAS officers, present and future. Carpe diem, seize the day. Tomorrow may be too late. Thank you, Sunita, and all your co-workers. Thank you.
Thank you also for all that you have helped us to understand about the virus and its impact and its relationship with nature. Anil Joshi, ji, can I ask you? Anil Joshi is the head of
Sunita, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. You're very audible.
Let me thank you and congratulate you for this wonderful report again and again. And would like to congratulate your team, Richard Mahapatra and everyone. I have gone through the report and I find that well, wonderful. They're invading species now to shrinking species. You have covered everything in that. And also, of course, the other aspect like energy straw to the offshore power. But the interestingly, what you have said, the new hills are coming, and unfortunately, nature hills we are losing fast. On the other hand, mountains are coming down now because of landslide and so on. I would like your reports also need realizes everyone. To me, I would like to quote that first time the COVID realized all of us what the nature is all about. Because everything so-called GDP, we could not discover where the GDP had gone down, but at the same time, the nature took care of us and it became better. But I would like to realize everyone, I think those working, the principle of nature says consumer must be a contributor. This has to be realized by everyone. And second is, really, this is a high time that we should seriously think there has to be ecology inclusive economy. Anything that we do, we really need to understand that the economy and ecology we are not inseparable. You will lose one, and if you say you gain the one, therefore we really have to go for ecology inclusive economy. This is what I would like to say, and I congratulate you again and your team for this wonderful report. And this is definitely, we will be following what we have learned from this report in future.
Abhilash Khandekar is a senior journalist and somebody I'm sure many of us have seen on TV. Abhilash ji, please.
Ji, thank you very much, Sunita ji. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, very much.
So I would, like most of the panelists have congratulated, I would also like to say that despite COVID challenges, this report was put together by Sunita ji and her team is a huge effort towards restoration of environment if it is going to really help. And as Mr. Jacob had said that IAS officer must read this thing mandatorily. I have about 2 hours ago booked 10 copies of this report to be distributed to my friends in the Madhya Pradesh bureaucracy so that they understand what is happening to environment. And I would like to flag 2 issues here which have been covered so well in the report. One is about e-waste. It's a grave danger which is growing day by day, and because of the COVID related situations and the increased use of information technology, the e-waste is likely to come into the society in a bigger number. And I would also compliment Sunita ji and editors for the data dive as far as waste generation data with the national map showing states dumping how much waste annually. This is quite alarming and at the same time is very impressive. I would once again like to congratulate the editors for bringing out these different chapters on climate change, rural development, forest, air pollution, and biodiversity. I work in the field of biodiversity also, and recently I have been made the member of the Wetland Authority. So I understand how much the wetlands are also under stress, and such information in this report is very nicely put up. And I must congratulate the designers of this report. They have done a fantastic job, Sunita ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sunil ji, can I call upon you? Sunil Kumar from Chhattisgarh, Chief Editor of Daily Chhattisgarh, based in Raipur. Sunil ji?
Could you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah,
please.
thank you very much to put among friends after very long, after many months, missing only India Habitat tea and biscuits, but can't get it online. I'm curious and concerned both about one aspect of environment in last 1 year, and it wasn't there till a year back. The pandemic and lockdown, the economic slowdown, people, millions and millions of people losing their job, employment, and not enough to eat, not enough ways to reach back home. This has created an environmental impact on many things. So pollution has gone down because production was low, consumption was low, movement of human was very little. So there should be a detailed study that how much of this could be sustainable economical reduction in consumption, economical reduction in movement, and how environment could be benefited by low consumption. We have learned a lot over last several months that how little is needed to survive. Like newspapers, many people have lived without newspapers for many months. Now, paper factories do not have pulp, recycled pulp to produce paper, and cost of paper has gone up like anything.
Yes.
So pulp has gone down, raddi has gone down, and we have learned to live with a newspaper on our mobile phone. Students have learned to study to some extent in some schools on mobile smartphone, classes are online. So this switch over from print and paper to something digital, to what extent it can be continued and to what extent it can save paper. There should be a detailed study and a mechanism on the part of the government to make digital tools available to economically weaker section. Otherwise, there is going to be a huge digital divide. So I would put an end to here and congratulating you people for such a wonderful report. Thank you.
John Kurian. John is one of the original architects of the SOE with Anil. So John, can I now call upon you? John, yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
And thank you and congratulations to the whole team. Those who have spoken before me have pointed out many aspects of the report, and I will not repeat. Actually, this is a very proud moment for all those who care for humanity and nature. The 2021 report stands on these unique foundations of CSE's first People's Environment Report. And just for the historical record, I wish to recall with affection 3 persons that were involved in the lengthy discussions about producing this first report. And they are no more with us today. The first is undoubtedly Anil Agrawal, founder of CSE. Then there is Rajendran, a founder of the Consumer Association of Penang, and also what is called the Sahabat Alam Malaysia, Friends of the Earth Malaysia. Actually, it was cancer probably caused by pollution which snatched these 2 visionaries from our midst. And this is such a big loss for us. The third was SM Muhammad Idris. He was the president of both SAM and CAP, and he passed away recently in 2019 at the ripe old age of 95, always fighting for issues regarding people and the environment. We must remain very grateful to their dedication and commitment for these 3 great humans. I think the passion of their hearts and the vision of their minds must continue to lead us. If I may add, Sunita,
yes,
there is one big realm which is missing in the report, the ocean.
Yes.
The ocean. In India, we have 2 million square kilometers of this terrain under our national jurisdiction. And we cannot afford to miss the human and environmental issues that arise there. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, John. Thank you. And we will remember this for next time. Pranay is an old colleague, and he works in public health and environment. And Pranay?
Thank you, Sunita ji. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Pranay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Sunita ji, you've been a mentor to me like many others who have worked. Richard Mahapatra is a very dear friend, and so many people who are still at CSE from my time, dear friends and mentors and guides. When I read the report, I realized that, that our children will need to understand the deep history of the complex ways in which nature works, and also the policies that we have made that have created problems from our generations, and we leave them behind for our children and their children to tackle. It's going to be reports like SOE that will help them understand or what they need to do to fix the future. Now, I remember the report that came out, which was, I think, on rainwater harvesting. And I was asked by Anilji to go and visit one of the RWAs. And I saw the skepticism in the people and some civil society members who were there, and they scoffed at the report. And they said, this is not going to help, or it's not going to do anything. But it's those kind of prescriptions and the foresight that people at CSC and people like Sunita ji and Anil ji and so many others had to help us avoid disasters, multiple disasters that would have otherwise happened across India. So I'm very grateful that, you know, what CSC taught me was to look at things beyond what was obvious and adopt a critical thinking process, which is what makes CSC's publication so remarkable. And this year, more than ever, this nature of critical thinking and to analyze both the pandemic as it wanes and as we prepare for the Paris Agreement negotiations. We are going to see that increasing medicalization and the greater dependence for leapfrog technology or techno-fixes, as Nitya mentioned, or simply Jugaad, as it works in India, to solve the problems of climate change and public health. Now, again, we forget the role of ecosystems and communities, and I'm thankful to Mohan Bhai and so many other people who spoke before us of reminding us the importance of ecosystems and communities. Now, both COVID-19 and climate change need to be addressed at the ecosystem level and through communities. I'm certain that CSC, Down to Earth, Gobar Times, and many other publications that come from this very vibrant institution will keep us on the right course. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Pranay. I have now Sharath, but Sharath called this morning. He has emergency at home, but Shuparno, can I just see the screen with his, and he's written something really beautiful, but I'm not going to read it out because I'm going to leave it on the screen even as I call upon Suchitra to speak, just simply because I am now running out of time. I did not imagine that how I would accommodate all this, but I think we will try. So Suchitra, can I now ask you to speak? Suchitra is an environmental journalist from Kerala. Suchitra M. Okay, she was there. Yes, Suchitra, you're muted. You're muted. You're on mute. Can you just, yes, perfect now.
Thank you, Sunita, and all others at CSC for making me a part of this great event. See, I'm from Kerala, and apart from the pandemic, we have experienced a lot of disasters in the last 5 years. We had very serious cyclones, we had floods, we had these landslides, drought, and wildfires. And even after all these disasters, our government is going with these mega projects, these mega construction and industrial projects under Rebuild Kerala initiative rather than reimagining a new state. And I think this is a state with, this is the case with all other regions in the country, and the central and the state government, they just do the business as usual, and they're becoming more harsh and hostile towards climate and environmental journalists and activists. So to make this development ecology debate more stronger, I think we need solid data, and this is exactly what CSC has provided through this report. This is a fantastic report. I got this report yesterday. I could not read all the reports, but all the articles, but I know I just glanced through the report, and it's a remarkable report. And apart from a special section dealing with COVID, packed with hard data, this has 9 segments like industry, water, waste, rural development, forest. So as a journalist focusing on ecology, sustainability, and equity, I treasure this report forever, just like I have done with all other reports brought out by CSC. And I know this is not an easy task, bringing out such a elaborate report. It's not an easy task, especially during this very difficult time of COVID, and even otherwise we are going through a very difficult time. So let me congratulate Sunita, Richard, and all others at CSC and Down to Earth for making and taking so much effort and making this report a reality. Thank you very much once again for inviting me to this event. And Richard, my special congrats to you. How many articles you have written in this book?
I know. He's the one. Madhusudan, MD Madhusudan, he's the director of Nature Conservation Foundation in Mysore.
Thank you, Sunita, and congratulations to everybody for this amazing report. The things that are obvious about it, and this is one of the best if you were to get a comprehensive idea of what's going on with the environment. It's got phenomenal data analysis and perspectives on a range of environmental issues. But what I would like to touch upon are three things that I think are not very obvious. One is this gathering itself. I think among everything that we contend with, environment is perhaps the most important among our collective action problems. To be able to gather people around, as you have done right now, is symbolic of something that I think is really, really needed, that there is a shared concern at the heart of this, and we need to speak over our differences. And I think that's something that's really important. And crisis and the environment seem to be two terms that keep going together. But the last year we saw that there's a perhaps the worst health crisis in our living memory, a terrible humanitarian crisis, and a staggering economic crisis. But what really resonated to me across the themes that you covered was the centrality of the political process to safeguarding the environment. Every one of those crises came from a natural process going rogue. And the reasons they went rogue aren't a mystery either. It's from the abuse of our living lands and waters. And for sure, we need to relate to and use nature better. But building, it's not just about building better engines to take us into the future we dream of, but even more importantly, especially in the context of our environment, it's also about building better bricks to make our energies, make our journey safer. And the third thing that I want to talk about is that I think with every crisis, because the crisis is always being invoked, comes the temptation to invoke authority to fix the problems. Many of these issues that we're dealing with come not from too little authority, but often from too much of it or from its perversions. It's probably less in the exercise of authority and more in the sharing of power and of responsibility, of more democracy, that I think many of these issues can be addressed. And this is what I take away. Thank you very much, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Madhu. I think you've picked up on why we needed this, so important, this gathering where we can speak in spite of whatever our differences, as one voice, one concern. Richard Mahapatra is the one who's put this report together, and you have to, he's not only written half the report, but he is the driving force behind it. So Richard, please.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the team that puts it together, everything, I speak. But I think you will read it, and for us, it's a work of labor, and we mostly behave like a courier boy to actually deliver the message. I can tell you something that in 1985, two things happened. One is the first State of India's Environment Report was published. And that's the year also India got its dedicated Ministry for Environment. And I was in class 10 still checking out in the dictionary a new word called pollution and confusing with populations. But nevertheless, if you look at it, since then, just look at 30 years plus, and it has not stopped, and a new generation and taking over, and we still actually looking at it. And with confidence, I can say that with this report, and backed by so many people, so many researchers, so many voices coming into this report, its contribution is much, much, much bigger than the ministry itself. And just to end up, to say that it's I think the most multilateral statement on environment that comes out every year. So many voices, perspectives, analysis, and every year. And that's something I think is a big contribution. Love to do it, and hopefully that. So from my team, I think that's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for being here.
You know, when I planned this, all my colleagues said this is never going to work. Too many voices, too many people, you'll never be able to succeed. And I am running out of time, so I'm going to request sorry for the remaining. Can you keep it even shorter? I'm really sorry. Everyone has kept their message very short, but it clearly means I was completely wrong. My colleagues were completely right. But I still think it's worth it. So I am going to request everybody now to keep it a little shorter. But Subhash ji, next aap hain. Subhash is the director of Sutra. Subhash, Himachal se. Subhash ji, can I hear him? Can we his mic? Maybe he's on mute. Thomas, can you just check? I'll move. Subhash ji is there. Subhash ji, आवाज नहीं आ रही आपकी. हाँ, नहीं. I'll move to the next and come back to you. Shalini. Shalini
Yes,
is
yes,
from
ma'am.
Xavier's
Yes,
College in Ranchi. Shalini, please.
Okay. First of all, thank you, CSC team and Sunita ma'am and Richard sir for providing me this opportunity to speak among all the India's environmentalists. What I would like to point out in this report of SOE 21 is that it mentioned, since I got this report a little late, so what I saw was in page number 180, it mentions about the state of Jharkhand, which is lagging in SDG 2. So as an academician from a state which is mostly of Adivasis, with SOE, it has a very comprehensive and very exclusive report that sets alarm for the state of India's environment and acts as a catalyst in my teaching. So it also supplements with a lot of thought-provoking element for my young students who are personally affected by enormous mining in deforestation and displacement projects such as the Mandal Dam project, and also by the urbanization that is driven by commercialization of the forest produce. So I have a certain suggestion also that I would like to pose a question in the end. So there is a need to recognize and bring into presence the epistemological diversity of the Adivasi community because of their close-knit relationship with the nature. So this needs to take center stage in the case of Jharkhand. So in Jharkhand, the erstwhile format of Gram Sabha is important to attain the sustainable development goal. So the usual narrative that is put up in the public discourse is mostly of the deforestation, mining, and displacement, which is very common. However, the deeper aspect of it, which remains unobserved and unaddressed, are that it might lead to ecological imbalance and would continue to exist if it is unaddressed. So despite of all the effort that CSC has been making and reports that have been coming up from everywhere, what is sad to see is that over the years, one question that remains unanswered is how we are still moving closer to ecological disaster. So this is quite worrying to me, and also this is how I relate it with my students. So thank you, CSC team, for this event, and looking forward for more of editions in the next coming years. Thank you and congratulations.
Subhash ji, can I now call upon you? Subhash ji. सुभाष जी कनेक्ट हो रहा है? सीएससी में भी बत्ती चली गई है यहाँ पर. So we are running on solar right now. So nahi Subhash ji, we cannot hear you. Okay, I will move on and I'll keep going back to Subhash ji. Manoj Mishra. Manoj, as most of you know, is the head of the Yamuna Ji Abhiyan, and has done amazing work to keep the issue of river pollution going. Manoj?
Thank you. Thank you, Sunita ji, for asking us to be here. राकेश जी ने अनुपम जी को याद किया, मैं एक और सज्जन को याद करना चाहता हूँ, प्रोफेसर ब्रिज गोपाल, जिनकी अभी लास्ट मंथ डेथ हुई। और प्रोफेसर ब्रिज गोपाल ने एक बार खुद मुझे बताया था कि हाउ ही वाज इन सम वेज इंस्ट्रूमेंटल इन गेटिंग अनिल जी टू मैरी साइंस एंड एनवायरनमेंट। You see, these reports are like the conscience keeper of our nation, and this report is no less. But you see, despite these reports, despite what everybody has been saying, we continue as a state to live in a state of denial. There is all-round degradation of natural India happening. But, and most regrettably, this is happening under the watch of the very agency which is mandated by Constitution to protect and preserve it. You see, the facts are that our winters are no longer the same, nor are our summers. Rains are either cloudbursts or an apology. Cyclones are no longer the preserve of the eastern coast. But for our Bhagya Vidhata, all is well. For them, forest fires in winters in Himalayas is no big deal, nor dams on rivers play any role in tragedies unfolding in the Himalayas, nor is deforestation left, right, and center visible to them, nor are flora and fauna threatened in any manner as far as they go. EIA is a monster that needs to be reined in no matter what. CRZ regulations are dispensable and RRZ need never be notified. Sand mining of insane proportions can be lived with, and rivers can be dredged dead for a passing ship. The list is long. One wonders if a nightmarish dystopia can now be far behind. Sorry to sound so negative. Now, as far as rivers goes, one of the most worrying developments is the insane growth of sand mining in our riverbeds. Sandar reports have highlighted all this in very gory detail. I think SOA 21 could have addressed this issue in detail greater than what is currently mentioned in passing under the state of the states section. Now, we as a nation need to redefine our new normal post the economically debilitating year of the pandemic. A secure and not devastated environment must be seen as the key to ushering in a sensible economic recovery. We don't want a huge economic recovery. We want a sensible economic recovery. I hope this report shall be found useful towards that goal. Amin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sudhir Mishra. Sudhir is the resident editor of Navbharat Times in Lucknow. Sudhir ji.
नित्या जी, मैंने रिपोर्ट देखी और काफी अच्छा आपने उसमें काफी अच्छे आर्टिकल्स हैं। मेरी फिक्र एक ये है कि आगे जो पॉलिसी मेकर्स हैं और जो इन्वायरमेंटलिस्ट हैं, उन्हें अब पूरे इरा को प्री कोविड और आफ्टर कोविड में देखना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि अभी जो नई प्रॉब्लम आ रही है वो इकोनॉमी को लेकर आ रही है और डेवलपमेंट को भी लेकर आ रही है। दोनों चीजों के बीच में कैसे तालमेल बनेगा, ये देखने वाली बात होगी, क्योंकि अभी गवर्नमेंट ने भी रूल्स को इतना, कानून कुछ इजी कर दिया इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन के लिए और उद्योगों के लिए, तो उससे निश्चित तौर पे पर्यावरण पे काफी नुकसान होगा। अभी हम लोगों ने 6 महीने पहले देखा कि भटिंडा से हिमालय की सफेद पहाड़ियां दिख रही थी, और अब धुआं और ज्यादा हो रहा है और डस्ट और ज्यादा हो रही है। ये फिक्र और बढ़ेगी मुझे लगता है।
नहीं, बिल्कुल, बहुत 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 सही बोले सुधीर, और इस चीज के ऊपर बहुत चर्चा करने की जरूरत है। विश्वजीत मोहंती, सेक्रेटरी ऑफ द वाइल्ड लाइफ सोसाइटी ऑफ उड़ीसा। विश्वजीत, प्लीज। विश्वजीत, Vishwajit,
Hi, sorry.
अब आ रही है, बिल्कुल.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I thank CSE for this excellent state of environment report, which reflects the challenges India's environment faces. This will be an extremely useful compendium for citizens, as the spread of topics is truly mind-boggling. And it's needless to say that India's environment ecology has never faced such enormous pressures and degradation. Driven by rapacious corporates' interests, growth is happening at unforgivable and irreversible damage costs. Sustainability, equity, and law have just been simply cast aside in that frenzy to fatten the balance sheets, while our policy makers and regulators are silent. And unfortunately, this is the development we are seeing in the recent years. And the best example is Disha Ravi. So environmental is now seen as a Western fad, and it's often subject to ridicule. But now we think, the time has come for citizens to need to bring this to center stage and start getting involved. And I urge all viewers who are watching this release, and citizens and their friends, please do join the fight across the country for a future where our kids can play outdoors, breathe pure air, and drink clean water. And I just wanted to ask something from Sunita. Have you ever got a response from MOF, Minister of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, to these reports?
विश्वजीत, बहुत response तो बहुत आता है. I think response is not the problem. The problem is that we need much more action and at scale. So nobody denies the problem anymore. The problem is now to get action, and at the level and the kind of action that all of us want, Vishwajit. So we have to keep at it. I mean, I'm not ready to give up, nor is any one of the people on this panel.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think that's what we have to keep at it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Raju, can I now call upon you? Raju Naik from Goa. Raju? Raju, आवाज आ रही है? Okay, I will. Shuparno, will you check on Raju? I will then move on. Apurva, is he there? I didn't see Apurva.
I am there. I'm there.
Apurva, wonderful. Good to see you. Hi, Apurva.
Hi.
Yes.
So I'll be as brief as possible. No, I've been a regular reader of the reports, and I like this one. In fact, I got it well in time, so I could really go through it. And for me, these reports, and I think somebody should do a study of the first report and this report. And to me, these reports show a expanding understanding of the term environment, which was, earlier very sort of a siloed term. And now this report, to me, actually, this whole linkage of what we call environment with health, with the economy, with urbanization, all of those linkages become very, very clear. And I come from a very rural perspective, but here I see, and the COVID also taught us because of migrants, and here I see that linkage is very, very clear. There's just one specific part of the report which I looked at more carefully, is the section on water. And there I think you referred to the Jal Jeevan Mission and other issues. There's just one part which maybe in future, if you can cover more, you all have already covered in the past, is this whole issue of water quality, both bacteriological and geogenic issues, because I think that's become, at least in rural areas, a single indicator of the state of environment and the state of water in most areas, whether it's urban pollution or lack of sanitation or whatever. I think that's become a thing, and I really like that section on water. So a great job, Sunita. Please, Richard, fantastic work.
Thank you. Subhashji, can I now call upon you? You have connected from your phone, so we should be able to hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, absolutely. Yes.
People living in Hindu Kush are the primary affected people of melting of glaciers and formation of subglacial lakes that can burst any time, like the one we had at Chamoli. The Pahadi states are trying to raise non-tax revenue to address populist demands are sanctioning large number of hydropower projects without taking into consideration the ecological cost. The people from Laos to Arunachal are putting a struggle against this. We expected the report to narrate in greater detail the gender impact of all these developmental activities, as in most of the Pahadi villages, men have migrated to plains, leaving behind women, mostly single old-aged ones. So one needs to pay greater attention to this fact. I salute all young environmentalists who are waging struggle against this neoliberal model of growth, even though most of these struggles are localized. The real challenge is how to make this report act like a magnet to bring them together and to convert the localized struggle into a national struggle. Thank you very much, Sunita.
Thank you, Subhashi. Subhashi, Ratna, I'm going to call upon you because I know that you have to leave early. So Ratna, please.
Thank you, Sunita. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for including me in this event. CSE has been continuously releasing SOE every year. Releasing the report in the wake of pandemic challenges is significant, and as global humanitarian crisis overshadowed the environmental issues, which have actually aggravated. In Assam, issues like devastating blowout in Baghjan gas well near Dibru-Saikhowa National Park and illegal open cast coal mining in Dihing Patkai Elephant Reserve reminded us the importance of in-depth and investigative environmental journalism. CSE's effort to journalists to equip the environmental journalists with scientific tools, research based on data and insight by domain experts is best represented by the annual State of Environment report published by Down to Earth. The SOE 2021 will help us to understand the environmental issues better in the context of prevailing pandemic situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ratna. You know, it's already touching 5:30. I'm already half an hour above. So, and I have half the group to go through. So what I'm going to ask is, we can go ahead because we still have 300 people watching us and we have a lot of other people listening to us. And anybody who needs to leave early, if you can just send me a message, I will advance you. And otherwise, I will just, I think we all want to hear each other. So if it's all right with you, I am going to go at it, and I will again listen to the wisdom of my colleagues next time. कल सबने मुझसे कहा था ये नहीं काम करेगा, और बिल्कुल सही कहा था मुझसे. Shri, can I now call upon you? Shri Padre is, I mean, he's an environmental journalist, but you can't really describe him as that. Shri Padre is the one who brought the whole issue of endosulfan to CSE's attention. So somebody who is incredible person who knows what's happening. Shri?
Sunita, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, I'm concentrating on a small, micro portion because I couldn't, I got the report just now. One of the things which, drew my attention is a couple of, plant species from the native plant species, the section what you have focused on. Very interesting. One is Mysore raspberry. It's a very thorny plant which is almost forgotten and maybe rare or slightly towards endangered sort of level from Mysore, Karnataka, Kodagu. But it is very popular in Hawaii. It's a very thorny plant, it can even be a better candidate for fence also. But Hawaiians love it so much, but here in its motherland, it is almost not known. You have focused on that. One thing. Second thing is there is one pickling mango, Apemidi. Apemidi is very popular in its native place, but not known outside. So these are two contrasts, and I'm very happy that while trying to get a mega picture, what could have been generally missed, you haven't missed. This is the level of professionalism and the seriousness with which your team has been working. All kudos. That's all.
Thank you, Shri. Pushpesh ji, Pushpesh Pant.
जी मैं समय का अभाव देखते हुए तत्काल बोलना शुरू करता हूँ, संक्षिप्त बोलूंगा। आपको मुबारकबाद मिलती रहेगी, अद्भुत आपका दस्तावेज है, मगर मुझे लगता है जो दस्तावेज है जमीनी हकीकत से जुड़ा रहता है, तटस्थ होता है और सरकारी रपटों की तरह किसी न्यस्त स्वार्थ का पोषण नहीं करता है। मगर मुझे लगता है जो सबसे बड़ी बात आपके दस्तावेज की है वो न केवल सरकार को आईना दिखाता है, हमको भी आईना दिखाता है कि हमारा क्या रिश्ता प्रकृति और पर्यावरण के साथ है और हाल के दिनों में कैसे वो आजकल बदल रहा है, दखलंदाजी के कारण, राजनीति की या व्यवसाय की। मगर कुल मिलाकर जो मुझे सबसे आकर्षक बात आपके इस दस्तावेज में लगती है सुनीता जी, जिसके लिए मैं व्यक्तिगत रूप से बहुत आभारी हूँ, कि इस गहरे अंधकार के कुहासे में भी एक चमकदार आशा की रोशनी की किरण ये जीवित रखता है दस्तावेज हर बार। तो बड़ी बेसब्री से मुझे इसका इंतजार रहता है और आप कभी निराश नहीं करें।
दो लोग जो जाना चाहते हैं, एक तो लियो हैं, लियो सल्डाना, और दूसरा संजय वशिष्ठ। So Leo, can I call upon you now? Have you left already? No, you're there. Leo.
Thanks for advancing me. I'm really sorry because of the.
No, I'm very sorry. I mean, this has gone out of hand. Sorry, Maggie.
No. I think this is an interesting engagement across the country and with such fantastic people. I want to congratulate you and Richard and the entire team for having actually put together a very comprehensive critique, I would say, of the state of India's despairing state of India's environment. I particularly like the fact that there is a range of issues that are covered. But I would hope that, like the first two reports were a state of environment report, but citizens report, that we would probably move in the next year towards a citizens state of environment report, because that has come up quite a few times. And I think what is important is that CSE's contribution would be much more instructive if, besides actually looking at science and rationale, we also critique and engage with the nature of environmental governance and the politics of environmental governance, which I find is not there in this report, but in as much of an argument that it should be there. And here also I would like to highlight that it would help to show the country the importance of being very worried about the ongoing financialization, commodification of natural resources, particularly in the farming sector, including through natural farming. And I think that's the message from the farmers' protest, that they can't take it lying down anymore. And finally, I want to echo what Niti's concern is, that environmental defenders and human rights defenders are under attack. A state of India's environment report should also look at what is happening to people who are struggling every day to engage with those complex concerns. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really sorry, but you know why I have to leave.
No, I'm sorry for this completely.
No, I think this is a great idea. Keep doing it. We should have it more often. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sanjay, can I call upon you?
Yes, Sunita, thank you, everyone for the opportunity. I just want to say one thing. This report is of great significance, especially now when this has come after last year's lockdown in 2020. The lockdown that actually, destroyed, or we lost what we have built in terms of economy, jobs, savings with the people, entrepreneurship, even society. And after that, we have fallen on environment to revive the economy. And this report is a mirror of the state of environment, how we are exploiting it. One thing is for sure, if this is the way we are going to use environment, then certainly we are not going to leave environment for our future generation. That would add sustainability. And we all know that environment is a very important pillar to add long-term resilience to climate impacts also. So thank you for showing us the mirror, Sunita, and best wishes.
Thank you. Sham Parekh. Kalpana, I will come back to Kalpana. Sham, please. Sham Parekh, can't see him. There he is. Sham, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. So congratulations, Sunita, for keeping environmental agenda in the discussion.
And all the friends and colleagues at CSE, congratulations a lot for designing such a wonderful report. I'd like to reflect on one aspect, and that is an environmental journalist. When I've done a lot of reporting and writing in hundreds and thousands of stories, there's one learning I've gained, that no matter what, until the society doesn't realize that the biggest legacy they can live for their children is not really money or wealth, but a good environment. And I think that message needs to be told across, then people will be, more interested in the agenda. Second point, I'd like to say that as a culture, we tend to neglect everything that we worship. There are a lot of aspects of environment that we worship. And as usual, we tend to neglect it, rivers, nature, etc. So probably somewhere that message needs to go. And the third part is whatever regulations we have for industry and others on terms of environment are seen as a mere stumbling block rather than a safeguard for everybody. So probably that's another social attitude that needs to be addressed and changed. So thank you so much, but this was a great experiment, and please keep doing this regularly. It's a great way to connect.
Patricia, I can see you now. Patricia Mukim from Shillong Times. I had missed you. I couldn't see you at that time. Please go ahead, Patricia.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear.
Yeah. So I have been, I went through the report that you sent, and as usual, I feel sad that I have to complain about, the lies that are perpetuated here about coal mining. So there is a denial that there is coal mining, but coal mining is happening very blatantly, very openly. And the rivers that are poisoned because of acid mine drainage have not yet been, detoxified. And nobody seems to show any concern about this river that has died. So that's one part of it. And if you were to come to Meghalaya, you'd see that garbage management is a complete failure. It's a complete failure, even in terms of the way hospitals manage their liquid waste, not to talk about the solid waste. So I really don't know. Sometimes you feel you're caught in a bind. You don't know what to do, what to say, other than writing, other than having to form a protest group. Isn't there a better way out of this situation?
Thank you, Patricia. I think we're all at it and we are making a difference. So I don't think we should let these voices, our combined voices are a huge source of power, not weakness. Athar Parvez from Srinagar.
Yeah,
Athar, can you keep it short, please? Sorry.
Yeah. That's what I will do, yeah. Thank you, Sunita ji, and thank you very much, CSE, and many congratulations for yet another brilliant and comprehensive report. So I will just make one quick point. In fact, I will follow up on what Joydeep said. He made a very wonderful point, which like he mentioned that are we doing enough? So that's what I'm also going to ask. Are we doing enough, considering the actions which are being carried out and the way they are inimical to environmental protection? So what are we going to do about that? And already are we doing enough on that? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Shekhar Pathak.
आवाज आ रही?
हाँ, बिल्कुल साफ।
सबसे पहले मैं सीएससी की पूरी टीम को और सुनीता को और रिचर्ड को और पूरे देश भर में फैली हुई आपकी टीम के सदस्यों को बधाई देता हूं इस बेहतरीन रिपोर्ट के लिए। हालांकि रिपोर्ट मेरे गांव चली गई और पीडीएफ मुझे शहर में मिला। मैं आज ही यहां पहुंचा इसमें शामिल होने के लिए। आज सबसे ज्यादा मुझे अनिल अग्रवाल की बहुत याद आई, बल्कि शरद को आंखें भर आई, अनुपम की बहुत याद आई और वीरेंद्र कुमार जी की बहुत याद आई। मैं इसलिए दोस्तों को शेयर करना चाहता हूँ, ये तीन वो लोग हैं जो उस इलाके में, जो चमोली जिले में पड़ता है, ऋषिगंगा और धौली के इलाके में, रैनी के बिल्कुल बगल में, 1973, 74, 75 में ये तीन लोग सबसे पहले वहां पहुंचने वाले लोगों में थे। उन्होंने चिपको को ही सामने लाने में योगदान नहीं दिया, बल्कि वहाँ का जो पारिस्थितिकी है, वहाँ की इकोलॉजी है, उसको भी सामने लाने में योगदान। इन तीनों को भी और तमाम लोगों को, अभी अभी ब्रजगोपाल जी के चले जाने की बुरी खबर भी दी, उनको भी मैं सलाम करता हूँ। अभी ज्यादा कहने का मौका नहीं है, लेकिन सुनीता आपने फिर मुझे जिसको कहेंगे कि खींच के बुला लिया है CSC की तरफ। मैं फिर लिखूंगा भी और इस तरीके से निरंतर जुड़ता रहूंगा। मैं जब मेरे हाथ में रिपोर्ट नहीं आई, फिर वो PDF से आई, तो मैंने अपनी अलमारी से पुरानी रिपोर्ट जब मैं निकालने लगा, जिसमें हिंदी की रिपोर्ट भी आई, तो उस रिपोर्ट के भीतर से अनिल का चिपको वाला लेख गिरा, गांधी घोष सेव जो न्यू साइंटिस्ट में छपा था, और उसके भीतर से एक छोटी सी अनिल की किताब गिरी, मड, और मैंने यूं करके उसको हाथ में थाम लिया। मेरा एक निवेदन और है, वो इलाके जो हमारी रिपोर्ट्स में कम हम कवर कर पाते हैं, जैसे कि हिमालय, जैसे कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट, जैसे कि डिजर्ट लैंड, जैसे कि डेक्कन के और समंदर के किनारों के बहुत सारे इलाके, और बहुत सारे ऐसे इलाके जहां हम में से अभी तक कोई नहीं गया है, उनको भी आने वाले समय में हम न सिर्फ अपनी एनुअल रिपोर्ट में बल्कि अपने जर्नल में भी स्थान देंगे। सबको बहुत बहुत सलाम। एक ही मलाल है, पूरे देश की लगभग 2 पीढ़ियां इन रिपोर्ट्स को पढ़ते पढ़ते बड़ी हुई हैं। वो बहुत सीखा है उन्होंने, और बहुत उनकी समझ इससे आगे बढ़ी है। जो नहीं सुनते हैं, दरअसल वो हैं जो देश को चला रहे हैं। ऐसा रास्ता कैसे बने कि ये लोग भी हमारी रिपोर्ट्स को, हमारी बातों को सुने। दुर्भाग्य ऐसा है कि अभी जो पर्यावरण मंत्रालय है, वो सबसे कम उसकी पर्यावरण में दिलचस्पी है। कैसे उसको जीवित करें, उसको मनुष्य बनाएं, उसको संवेदनशील बनाएं, ये जिम्मा भी मेरे ख्याल में इन रिपोर्ट्स का होगा। सबको पुनः सलाम, और CSC की पूरी टीम को बहुत बहुत बधाई।
Okay, I have a proposal for a change in strategy, because I have clearly mismanaged the whole thing. What I'd be grateful for is I have number of people still to speak, and I would like everyone, instead of my calling on each one, can you just, anyone who wants to speak, just raise your hand and then I will call upon you. Would that be a better way to do it? Because I'm just wondering, instead of my going through, I'm still on P and I still have to go to W. I do want to listen. I think the one person I know who I dragged out of his work, I dragged out everyone, but I dragged out Sonam Wangchuk out of his work. Is Sonam still there? And I'm just wondering whether I should go backwards now. No. So how do we proceed on this? Should I just keep going on, or should I ask anyone who wants to speak to hold up their hand?
I don't have a hand.
Okay, Rajeshwari, yes, can you speak?
Since my writing is up on the screen now, so can I go now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. And it's a great honor to be here with you. Wonderful report. And I just want to make one, well, let's say, very specific request. This has been a really comprehensive report to read, and I really enjoyed the detail that's available in this. But my request is, I've written it up, but a request is that we focus a little more on the content and politics of knowledge, of science, that is what goes into, we say it's science and environment. Let's bring in more of the science debate into the public forum. Why is it that certain kinds of knowledge is not considered valid? And why is it that certain kinds of, well, let's say particularly some kinds of science are considered more privileged, right? So let's take a little more careful look at this. Well, I've written this about the plague being an enabling role in European enlightenment and so on. And we hope that COVID will actually lead to a different enlightenment here in India. So let's work towards that. Thank you very much. It's been a great honor to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rajeshwari. Dilnawaz, and can I ask you? She's my boss, my second boss, so I can't not call upon her.
As I said, Sunita has gone well beyond any of her bosses. We all look up to her now for guidance. Actually, in 1973, which is 48 years ago, when I first took charge as head of WWF India, environment was not even a word that people spoke about. And but the next 12 years, thanks to Mrs. Indira Gandhi and Dr. Salim Ali, we got some fantastic things going off in terms of conservation work, but mainly for wildlife, the Project Tiger, wildlife sanctuaries, endangered species, stopping ecologically destructive projects. But it was always my concern that we could not depend on a couple of powerful people, and it should become a citizens' movement. And therefore, the first citizens' report was really very exciting because it was a new dimension, and it was also going beyond wildlife conservation to land, water, dams, a large number of issues. So now in the 2021 report, some of these issues have remained unchanged or deteriorated further, but a lot of other very important issues have become critical. And therefore, I really do greatly appreciate the way in which CAC has unfailingly brought scientific rigor, holistic sensitivity, and an uncompromising courage for so many years to give strength to the environmental movement. Thank you, and keep it going.
Thank you, Dilnawaz. Mahesh, can I call upon you? Mahesh Rangarajan and I started our journey together in Kalpvriksh. Mahesh,
I think he has left.
Oh, he's left. Okay. Kartike then is my first boss, so I will call upon him. Kartike Sarabhai.
Yeah, thanks, Sunita, and it's wonderful to be here for this launch. And congratulations to you and on your whole team. I'm glad. I really like this year's format, and it's got both the comprehensiveness and focus. And I was sort of missing. I was always sort of debating when I saw an SOE which one would work better. But this one really has both of this, and I like the SDG connection and at the state level. So I think these are really good additions. I think it's a resource which I can see ourselves using in a number of forums and educational media. My one comment was that a lot of that data is in fact government data, Niti Aayog data, and I thought that I was looking at some of the data which I'm familiar with, and some of them are questionable data. And I think that quality of the first report, which had sort of citizens commenting on it more, I think you might want to consider that the state report, you also have some citizens' comments which go with the state report. Just brief comments, because I think you bring in a perspective which is different from the Niti Aayog and the state governments. But congratulations to the whole team. It's wonderful to be here. I'm sorry I have to leave. Thank you.
Giri Rao ji, can I ask you, your work in Orissa, can you?
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Thank you, Sunita ji, for inviting me for the part of this enter the process. Earlier, I used to be the one of the reader. Now, this time, I am part of the book releasing. Just a few things what I try to highlight here, particularly when I try to look into the forestry chapter here, what the concern that is expressed, we are losing the forest and biodiversity and the species. During the pandemic, when the state government has failed to provide the food security to the large section of the tribal communities who are in the forest hinterlands, at that time the forest has survived the millions of the people. So it is the right time we need to really rethink whether we require forest or not, whether we require the forest department or not. Whether this is the right sentence, I don't know, but whether we require the forest department or not, because even in the 1980 Forest Conservation Act, we're supposed to check the entire diversion that has failed. So this is what the message I want to give here. Thank you.
Sunita, may I take off? Well, Sunita, this is Jagdish here.
नीता आपका माइक खोलिए, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही.
मेरा आवाज नहीं आ रही है. हाँ, ठीक है. Jagdish, please.
Yeah, just to quickly, I see this, that there's nothing much to celebrate or rejoice. While the symptoms and patterns are apparent and worrying, the deeper structural and mental models that lie underneath are far more wicked and pervasive. A broken economic model, a systematic erosion of institutions that mediate between nature and people, and a dominant mindset that reduces citizens to beneficiaries are some of the deeper faults lying in the system. We do understand that the ills we face today are manifestations of a project that has been in the making for several centuries. We need to move away from a linear and reductionistic thinking to a systems thinking. We also need to move away from models that promote either centralization or total individualization of resources, decision-making, knowledge, etc., to a paradigm of commons. The leads that Prakash Kashwan and group that had begun to outline in the Perspectives chapter offer leads for future action. We need a flotilla of boats instead of one big ship. We need distributed leadership, a pluralistic thinking, and a regenerative character in our efforts over the coming years and decades. We need to debunk the tragedy of commons and position it as the promise of commons. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well put. Thank you. Such strong words. Dr. Prabhakar, can I call upon you now? Dr. Prabhakar? Okay. I think I'm really winding up now, and I can see him. So I'm just wondering, Suchitra, can I call upon you? Dr. Prabhakar, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. Suchitra, can I call upon you? Oh, Suchitra, you already, no, Suchitra spoke. Yeah. Sorry, Suchitra, I'm now losing it. I can't see anybody. My system is on.
Sunita ji, you may want to call Mr. Vasimalai then, if we
yes,
go.
Please. Thank you, Shuparno. Thank you for this help. Yes, Vasi is here. Vasi? I think we are all losing it. Hamare CSE has even lost electricity. So Ashwini?
Ashwini wants to come in, so Ashwini
Yes.
can come in.
Ashwini, can you come in?
Yeah, Sunita ji, thank you very much. It is a wonderful report, and I've gone through a major part of it, and especially the chapters on Himachal. So it's very interesting, and you know, we are a very small state, but the very big environmental action is taking place in Himachal Pradesh. Recently, you have seen the impact on the Pong Dam words, migratory birds, which came 5,000 plus birds died in that area. And now one thing I just wanted to point out that after opening of Rohtang Tunnel, so there's going to be huge impact on Lahaul Spiti, which remains as no bond area for 6 months, but now a lot of tourists are going there, and I believe in the next summers, coming summers, we'll have a major disaster there, as we have seen in the Rohtang Pass. So I believe in the next studies when you do on this kind of a report, I believe the Lahaul Spiti will be also be included in that. So that is the point I was just wanted to make, and a brief, and my compliments to whole team at the CSE for the report. It's a wonderful report, and I feel it can be used, some data will be used in some of my reports in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashwini. Harjeet, can I ask you now to come in with all your work on climate change?
Thank you. Congratulations, Sunita and the entire CSC team for such a meticulous piece of work as ever. And thank you for inviting me. Let us agree that we are living in a broken system, be it economic, social, or environmental. As the report also underlines, natural disasters can't be called natural anymore. We can see handprints and footprints of Homo sapiens on each of these environmental and climatic disasters. And as Sunita, you also mentioned, it's the poor who face the brunt of these shocks and stresses, such as loss of crops, livelihoods, displacement, and forced migration, which is going to become far more problematic in the years to come. The model of so-called development around the world, and in our case, which we have mindlessly copied from the West, is underpinned by the extraction and exploitation of labor and natural resources. We need to call out the political economy behind the multiple crises that we face today in India and around the world. So what we need is system change, and that's what I would like to emphasize using this opportunity. We all know now we need to change how we grow, how we eat, how we build our homes, how we work, how we trade, and so on. And this report provides a holistic view of the state of environment intertwined with economy and society. And we must use this analysis to demand and fix the system. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dinesh, I can see you now. Dinesh, can you come in, please? Dinesh Sharma.
Thank you, Sunita. It's been a great opportunity to speak and connect with so many people. I'll be just rather speak telegraphically. And this was the first report. I took out the copy today, and this was another one. So practically my journalistic career has grown with these reports. The first report I covered as a cub reporter, and today I'm sitting with all other panelists to talk about it. So it's been a great resource, and also to understand the interconnectedness between different issues, which journalists sometimes tend to miss. So that way it's been a great source of learning and understanding these issues. Second point which I wanted to make, which many people have made, is that there is a need to bring out state level reports, if not for every state, or at least for some critical states. So if CSC can share the methodology with other organizations of bringing out such report, it would be a great deal, a great service, I suppose. The third point which I wanted to make is to bring it out in different languages. Again, you need partnerships, you need to build that, because one needs to disseminate. I mean, people have talked about Hindi. There are so many organizations in South who would be interested in bringing it out, at least the summaries or related portions of it. So these are the 3 points I wanted to. Thank you.
Thank you. Madhu Sareen. Madhu has been our oldest ally and has seen this journey through the many years. So Madhu, please.
Yeah, I'll be very, very brief, and thinking of being, thanks for mentioning my old association, and I was thinking of Anil much today, how proud he would have been to see the work continuing and the amazing quality and value of the work. I really don't have much to say, in the sense that people have covered the important points. I was just wondering that in terms of reach, can one, I know educational institutions and all are reached, but can we also think of how to reach trade unions and, with the workers' movements becoming so strong, and they are all directly impacted in their working life? Is there any way that we can think of reaching them? And the only other point I was thinking was, given the value of this, how can we think of integrating this knowledge and, into the political process? Can the political parties be more involved? How to, mainstream these issues in the dialogue?
No, all very
That's
tough,
all.
but very important. Thank you, Madhu. Anumita, will you help to wrap this up with me, please? Anumita and I are oldest colleagues as well. So Anumita, please.
Very quickly, not even planning to wrap it up, just a quick reflection. So every year when we have to meet Richard's very difficult deadline, we are writing more than just an article. We are actually introspecting deep to understand what's working, what's not working, and to understand that inflection point. And from that perspective, SOE this year has been a very special issue because this was the year of disruption, of humanitarian crisis. And in that disruption, when we saw that blue sky, that reminded us that what it takes to bring change, but we cannot shut down economy for that change. So we need real action. But at the same time, we saw the solutions collapsing all around us. And we saw the pushback from industry and the lowering of environmental safeguards. So from that perspective, as we are constantly saying that this SOE is talking about how do you make crisis the opportunity for change. And if we believe in this, then I'm so happy that this collective conversation that is happening right now, that this is what Anil had actually talked about, that SOE is part of that information, that where you're informing and empowering public opinion to change the politics. And if that's what we believe in, then this SOE that captures the message from the crisis, I certainly hope that the next SOE that we are going to do will bring the evidence of truly green and just recovery. So that's what we are looking for. And that's why we need this collective conversation to go on.
Thank you, Anumita. I think so well put. I've only missed one person who I had called out earlier, and I can just see she has left, is Kalpana Sharma. I was so keen to ask Kalpana to speak. She was part of the first State of India's Environment Report. So I'm really sorry that I've missed her. But I hope next time we will have a better chance. And Anumita's words are so important. And this is really the perspective that I want to leave all of you with. We still have people listening to us. And I'm really grateful for so many people to have joined this conversation. We have over 1,000 people listening to this conversation. And we are really grateful that you have taken the time to stay with us. I think you have heard all the voices. You have heard the deep concern of people from across India in terms of the state of the crisis today. But here is also the opportunity for us to work together, to make our voice stronger, to make sure that we can use the words for change. And that's really all that CSC and Anil taught us, is that knowledge, information is about knowledge, and knowledge has to drive change. And that's why this gathering of all of us together, however depressing it may sound at some times, I don't think it is depressing. I think it is about the joint combined strength that we get out of making sure that we can continue to make a difference. Each one of us in our little way will continue to make that difference. We'll make that voice a shout and a scream. So thank you so much for joining, and forgive me all the people who I have not been able to ask to speak and who left. I will do a personal mail to everybody apologizing for this, and I'm really sorry, but thank you so, so much for joining. This was an extraordinary event, and I must say it will give us all the courage that it takes us, the strength and the courage it needs to go on. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, and this was a wonderful event, Sunita.
Thank you. Thank you, Shyam. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Namaskar.
Thank you. Oh, Kalpana is here. Wait, no, Kishan, no, Kalpana is gone. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.